We usually picture that wild hair, the twinkle in his eye, and the man that somehow decoded the universe with math. But what if I told you that one of his greatest discoveries yet actually began as a mistake? Now, mistakes are something we all know too well, right? Maybe a wrong answer in an exam, a wrong decision, or a moment you thought, oh no, I've messed up. See, the thing with Einstein's mess up, though, is that it didn't just change his life. It changed our entire understanding of the universe itself. Let's rewind back to the 1900s, back when Albert Einstein first published his equation of general relativity, which in fact replaced the older Newton's law of gravity, the more recognized equation of the time. See, when Einstein first published his equation, he was fiercely ridiculed or even ignored. People just thought it was too weird or radical to be true. After all, he wasn't exactly a working scientist, so some just regarded him as a patent clerk. Can you picture that? A young man sitting in a cluttered apartment in Bern, Switzerland, with no lab, no assistants, just his mind. And with that mind, he dared question Sir Isaac Newton, the man who defined physics for centuries. Can you imagine that? It's like telling the world, hey, I think one of the greatest physicists who ever lived might have been a little bit wrong. Doesn't clock too well, does it? See, according to Einstein, space isn't an empty void. It's a vast, flexible surface woven from both space and time. Ever heard of the fabric of space and time? Yeah, this is where that idea comes from. What you have to realize, though, is that this theory completely contradicted with the status quo of the time, which was essentially Newtonian space and time, where people strongly believed that space was fixed and that time was fixed. Now, pause and think about that for a moment. Imagine standing up against an entire scientific community suggesting that everything they know about reality, about gravity, about space, about time is wrong. Believe it or not, Einstein's first mistake in public was essentially his first step towards progress. And that's where I want to take you all today. Not just through discoveries or equations, but also because it appears that the universe seems to reward our mistakes, and that not every wrong turn in thought might actually end up, and that a wrong turn in thought might actually end up being a right turn in history. All right, so back to Einstein. Once he derived his initial equation, he tried applying it to the simplified universe. However, his calculations implied that the universe was expanding, was changing with time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, remember I told you people back then believed the universe was static? Therefore, prevailing scientific opinion of the time, Einstein had to hold on to the existing presumption that the universe was indeed static. So just to comply with the existing understanding, he decided to add a mathematical fudge factor, known as the cosmological constant lambda. So in basic terms, he did what any of us would have done when our results don't match what the world expects. He added a little fix, a tweak, just to make things look right. Now, I love this part of the story because it's just so human. Haven't we all done that? Adjusted our plans, smoothed over a truth, convinced ourselves that everything is going steady, even though deep down we know they're not. Think about it. All right, back to Einstein's story. Then came 1929. Edwin Hubble. Yes, the guy the telescope's named after. He looked through his giant telescope And he discovered something quite astonishing. He saw that the galaxies in the universe were actually moving apart. And then the universe wasn't static after all. Well, guess what? Can you imagine that? A man peering through the largest telescope in the world and realizing that every star, every galaxy was moving away. The universe was expanding. Now, isn't that revolutionary? For the first time, people realized that the night sky wasn't a still picture. It is a film, still rolling and continuing to expand. The universe is alive, changing and ever growing. So much for Einstein changing his equation, right? See, with Hubble's new discovery, he could finally ditch the fudge factor and return the equation of general relativity back to its former glory. Albert Einstein was over the moon. In fact, in 1931, he went all the way up to Mount Wilson just to shake Hubble's hand and thank him for adding beauty back into his equation. He could finally ditch the fudge factor. Therefore, he ended up calling the addition of lambda his biggest blunder. But here's where the story takes a poetic turn. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the universe seems to have a sense of irony. All right, so decades later, just as physicists were getting used to this idea, they happened to discover something new, an invisible force that was making galaxies move faster and faster. They named it dark energy. And guess what? The simplest explanation we have for dark energy is Einstein's fudge factor, lambda. It's almost as if the universe looked back at Einstein and went, hey, I think you were right all along. Think about it. A mistake made in 1917 ends up explaining one of the greatest mysteries of modern science, almost a century later. That is the beauty of human curiosity. We stumble, we fall, and in doing so, we open doors we never knew existed. Every wrong turn in science is more or less like a detour that actually leads to a better destination. This is why Einstein's cosmological constant is so fascinating. See, in the 1920s, it was denounced and written off as a pointless patch. But then in the 1990s, it returned as the simplest explanation for dark energy, which, unfortunately, Einstein never lived to see. His blunder continues to fuel research to the very fate of the cosmos today. Einstein's story isn't just about physics. It's about what it means to be human. To question, to fail, to doubt yourself, and to still keep going. Because the universe itself seems to reward our mistakes as if every wrong turn we take is actually part of the path. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, not every wrong turn is wrong. So the next time your plans go off track or your idea doesn't work out the way you thought it would, remember Einstein. Remember that one of the greatest minds in history actually had to take a wrong turn before he found the right one. Because maybe, just maybe, the universe was designed that way, only to reveal its secrets to those who dare to make mistakes. So, who knows? Maybe your next mistake might end up being your greatest contribution. Thank you.